I felt compelled to jump on and do a little review of Chasing the Sun 2. Where I'm basically front and centre of the show. Nothing to do with Rassie Erasmus or Bongi Mbonambi's story. I'm joking. There's a cameo role from me. But firstly, I just want to put out there publicly that rugby documentaries, they don't get any better. Maybe the Lions won in 97. The British and Irish Lions won down South Africa, just because that's the original, that's the OG. But Chasing the Sun, all the producers, I did play a small part, and you'll see that more and more as the episodes come on, that I come into my own. But fantastic. The best rugby documentary I've ever seen. So the episode 2 was the lead up to the Ireland game in the pool stages. So South Africa had already dusted off Scotland. I say dusted off. They beat them. And as we know, Jesse Creel said it was their toughest game. But the episode 2 was the game around Romania, the cricket score that was 76-0. But it was South Africa's bogey team against Ireland. And I just loved the build-up, the access that you get to Rassie talking about how they're going to make up the team, losing Malcolm Marx as well. And I had no idea that Malcolm Marx was seen as the best player in the Springbok team. Scott Berger said it to me when we did a walk and talk in Marseille during the World Cup. But Malcolm Marx, losing him, you could see they were devastated. And you think about Bongi Mbonambi, fantastic player, and we'll get on to him now. But losing Malcolm Marx was huge. Big turning point for South Africa. What were they going to do with the bench leading to that Ireland game? Well, they went nuclear. They pressed the nuclear button. And they also went nuclear on the media in Ireland. And they showed it on Chasing the Sun 2 and put it in the documentary, because Rassie put it up in the team meeting and said, this is what they're fucking saying. And Matt Williams, goodness me, clown. Love the way he speaks. Like, a big fan of like how engaging he is. But come on, mate. You can't be talking about the karma's going to come back and bite them. And I know you're guessing by them but being a 7-1 bench that karma's going to come back and bite the Springboks. They won the World Cup, brother. So the karma's on you. But I do love the insight that we got around Malcolm Marx, and that took us into Bongi Mbonambi's life. I had no idea. Being in there with his family and the access that you get to his story was quite amazing. And everyone talks about Sia Khaleesi and Mapimpi and these amazing stories that these South African players have. Had no idea on Bongi Mbonambi's backstory of not having much money and relying on other coaches and friends, family to take him to rugby, even if their children weren't playing. And I resonated with that because it's similar to my life growing up. So I found that quite an emotional but engaging part of the series, and how much love Rassie has for Bongi Mbonambi. Didn't really want to say it, but it actually showed. The big narrative around the episode 2 was the game against Ireland, and it's something that I've spoken about on different forums. The fact that Ireland were the number 1 team, South African world champions, the narrative, the stage was set. One thing I didn't remember, because so much has happened since that game, and the quarters and the semis and the finals, which were epic, was just actually the physicality and the brutality and the violence in that game. And what I love about this series is unapologetic. They don't give a shit in how they deliver their message to their players. And I am a massive Rassie Erasmus fan. And this isn't me fanboying Rassie because he's won back-to-back World Cups. Look at his delivery to his team. He ain't saying, oh, we don't look at the media, we're not interested. Yeah, we fucking do. This is what they're saying. This is what these clowns are saying about us. Words he uses in the change room before the game, violence, aggression. I love it. That's what rugby is. The episode, Bongi Mbonambi, his backstory, seeing his family as he's singing in the tunnel, lovely little anecdote. Had no idea, hadn't picked that up. Obviously, Sia Khaleesi does the same as they're going out against Ireland. But the physicality in that game is what my point was. I forgot. The 7-1 bench that they used against the All Blacks at Twickenham before they got there, that was the narrative in the lead up to that game. The fact that Matt Williams and the off-the-ball guys were saying that, one, they shouldn't be allowed to do it. World Rugby need to step in. They hope that it comes back to bite them. I know they didn't win that game against Ireland. They were good enough to win that game. They were probably slightly better. They missed a few opportunities and few chances. But I always said, I remember after the game, I was pitch side, And Ebenezer was walking around, and that was our first interaction that we had at the World Cup. I was like, how are you about that? He got picked up by James Lowe and made to be a bit embarrassed, I think. Well, I imagine he would have been. And he said to me, don't worry. He's like, we'll get them back if they make it. And as we know, Ireland didn't make it. But the battle between Bundy Aki and Damien Dealandi and the way they showed that footage in the documentary, the physicality, and they speak about it. R.G. Snyman talks about the relationship with the Munster players, wanting to go harder at them, the respect the South African players had for the Ireland players. It was going to be the toughest game. The narrative, the stage was set. It wasn't a must-win game for South Africa. It was a must-win game for Ireland, but there was nothing in it. You had the two best teams in the world going hammer and tong, and the way that crescendo was built from the team meeting with Rassie Erasmus and the 7-1 bench, world number one versus the world champions, it was amazing that we got into the kind of nuts and bolts of that insight. The one for me was Pieter-Steph du Toit. He's a man that no one really hears of, and I'm actually going to Japan in a couple of weeks to interview Pieter-Steph. I am a massive fan of him, just as an athlete, his backstory, but just seeing his life and his parents and the Afrikaans. One thing, again, the ignorance to it, I didn't realise how big the Afrikaans language was in the Springbok camp. And now that Jerry Flannery, the Harlequins coach, former Ireland hooker, has gone over to South Africa to now coach, and having to learn the language, I didn't know it was the thing. And for that, I apologise. And it is a thing, and it's a great thing as well. And how that was shown and how that was portrayed. And Pieter-Steph, obviously his first language is Afrikaans because his mum's speaking it, and I knew he had a relationship with the Springboks before with a family member. I didn't realise it was as close as his granddad. So that's fucking cool. Hey, they're just so cool. Like the whole South Africa thing. And I'll leave on this. This was the thing that opened my eyes properly, which I knew, and I've spoken about it. And I was in Pretoria recently. I interviewed Dricus du Plessis, the UFC middleweight champion. I did a pitch side show for the Bull Saracens game. But I wanted to put myself out there and do some cultural stuff and learn a little bit more. I want to learn more about South Africa and what they've been through as a country. And I don't think I'll ever really understand, but I went to Nelson Mandela's house. I went to the Apartheid Museum, and I found the Apartheid Museum very emotional because I learned more about Nelson's story, the hardship they had to go through, the fight, the struggle, the political landscape, the social issues they had to go through. And Rassie Erasmus, I love how he throws in them social issues and anecdotes of responsibility that the Springboks have as a team, as individuals, as players, as athletes, as men, and that responsibility they have on the country. And just remember what you're playing for is always thrown in there. Just remember who you're doing this for. And I'm sorry, I forget, and I'll get it for the next time, but some of the narrators and the journalists that are in there talking about the game being played at the weekend. You wake up on a Monday, you're waiting for that game. So you wake up on a Monday, what are you looking forward to? You're looking forward to Friday, which is the match. You're looking forward to Saturday. So episode 2 of Chasing the Sun 2, absolutely loved it. Small cameo from me. There could be more. But what I've picked up from that is that Bongi Mbonambi, unbelievable backstory. Pieter-Steph du Toit, the man, the myth, the legend, and the 7-1 bench. I know they lost the game, but that is the turning point, as we see. That game was the turning point for South Africa, because as we know, they went on to win every single game after that. So I can't wait for episode 3. Leave your comments, interact. The stuff that you've seen from Chasing the Sun. If you're in South Africa, obviously you're going to interact because you've seen it. If you're in the UK and Ireland, anywhere else, you haven't. But I promise you, it's coming to the UK soon. Big thank you to everyone. Tell your mates, like, subscribe, and all that's what they say on the YouTube channel. But Chasing the Sun 2, absolutely epic. Episode 2, it was great. But can you imagine what's coming on 3, 4, 5, and 6? Here we go. See you later.